Right now, someone is reading your emotions better than you can read theirs. They know when you're lying, what you're thinking, and exactly how to manipulate your next decision. They're not psychic. They're using spy techniques, and they're everywhere around you. Over the next 30 minutes, I'm going to reveal 15 classified spy techniques that are being used on you every single day. By salespeople, by your colleagues, even by people you love. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to spot them and use them yourself. Now, you might be wondering, how did spy techniques end up in everyday life? Well, here's the fascinating part. For decades, intelligence agencies around the world, the CIA, MI6, Mossad, the KGB, they developed sophisticated methods to manipulate human behavior. These weren't just about gathering secrets. They were about controlling decisions, influencing thoughts, and predicting actions. These techniques were so effective, so devastatingly accurate, that they remained classified for years. But then something happened. Former intelligence officers retired and moved into the private sector. They became consultants, sales trainers, corporate psychologists, marketing executives, and they brought their playbook with them. The same methods used to flip foreign agents and extract state secrets were repackaged for boardrooms and sales floors. The psychology didn't change. Only the target did. These techniques work because they exploit fundamental aspects of human psychology. They tap into our need for social acceptance, our fear of missing out, our desire to appear consistent, and our inability to resist certain psychological triggers. Intelligence agencies spent millions of dollars and decades of research perfecting these methods. Because they had to work, lives depended on it. And now, that same research is being used to sell you products, influence your votes, and shape your decisions. But here's what the agencies don't want you to know. Once you understand these techniques, once you can see them in action, they lose much of their power over you. Awareness is the ultimate defense, and that's exactly what I'm going to give you today. Not just awareness, but mastery. Because by the time we're done, you won't just be able to spot these techniques. You'll understand them so deeply that you could use them yourself if you chose to. So let's begin with the first technique. This one is so subtle, so elegantly simple, that most people never realize it's being used on them. It's called elicitation, and it's about to change the way you hear every question for the rest of your life. Elicitation is the art of extracting information without asking direct questions. CIA officers use this technique in foreign countries to gather intelligence from people who would never knowingly speak to a spy. The beauty of elicitation is that the target doesn't even realize they're giving away secrets. They think they're just having a normal conversation. Here's how it works. Instead of asking a direct question that might raise suspicion or put someone on guard, you make a statement, a casual observation, assumption, and human nature does the rest. Let me give you a concrete example. Imagine a CIA officer wants to know how much a foreign official paid for their new car. They would never ask directly, "How much did you pay for that car?" That sounds intrusive, nosy, like an interrogation. Instead, they'd say something like, "That must have been expensive. Notice what just happened." That's not a question. It's a statement. But what does the other person do? 9 times out of 10, they'll correct you or provide details. "Oh, it wasn't that bad. Only about 40,000. Or they might brag, "Actually, I got an incredible deal. Just 35,000. Either way, They've given you the exact information you wanted, and they did it voluntarily. They don't feel interrogated. They feel like they're just having a friendly chat. The psychology behind this is fascinating. Humans have a deep need to correct misinformation and to be seen accurately by others. When someone makes an assumption about us, especially if it's wrong, we feel compelled to set the record straight. We also love to share our wins, our smart decisions, our insider knowledge. Elicitation exploits both of these tendencies simultaneously. Now, here's where it gets really interesting for you. This technique isn't just being used by intelligence officers in foreign capitals. It's being used on you constantly. Your coworker who said, "You must be making serious money now with that promotion." They just use elicitation on you. The car salesman who said, "I'm guessing you're looking to stay under 30,000. He's using elicitation to find out your budget. Your friend who casually mentioned, "I bet you're seeing someone new." They're fishing for information about your dating life. Think about your interactions over the past week. How many times did someone make a statement about you, and you immediately volunteered information to correct them or confirm their assumption? That's elicitation in action. And here's the most important part. It works because it doesn't feel like manipulation. It feels like normal conversation. The questions are hidden inside statements. The interrogation is disguised as chit-chat. Car dealerships actually train their salespeople in this exact technique. Instead of asking, "What's your budget?" which makes customers defensive and guarded, they're taught to say things like, "Most people in your situation are looking at the mid-range models," or "I'm guessing you want to keep the monthly payment pretty low." The customer, wanting to appear successful or to correct a wrong assumption, will often reveal their actual budget without even realizing they've been played. The beauty of elicitation, from the manipulator's perspective, is that it creates plausible deniability. If you call them out, they can always say, "I was just making conversation. I wasn't trying to pry." But now you know better. Now you can hear the difference between a genuine statement and an elicitation attempt. But elicitation is amateur hour compared to what I'm about to show you. The next technique is so effective. The FBI trains every single agent in it on day one. And I can guarantee you've fallen for it at least 3 times this month. You might have even fallen for it today. This technique doesn't just extract information from you. It allows the person using it to know when you're lying before you even finish your sentence. It's called behavioral baselining, and once you understand it, you'll never look at human interaction the same way again. Technique number 2 is called behavioral baselining, and it's how interrogators know you're lying before you finish your sentence. This is one of the most powerful observational techniques. In the intelligence playbook, Mossad agents scanning airport crowds aren't looking for suspicious behavior. They're looking for deviations from baseline. The 3-step process. First, observe someone's normal behavior. How do they stand when relaxed? What's their typical speech rate? Second, watch for deviations. Suddenly they're speaking faster or avoiding eye contact. Third, exploit that anomaly because that's where the truth is hiding. Your boss does this to you. They see you every day and know your baseline. When you walk indifferent, quieter, checking your phone more often, they notice. This is how your boss knows. You're job hunting before you say anything. You're dressing better, taking private calls, less invested in long-term projects. You've deviated from your baseline. Technique number 3 is micro-expressions. Involuntary facial expressions that flash across your face in 1/25th of a second. revealing true emotions before your conscious mind can suppress them. Paul Ekman, who worked with the CIA, discovered 7 universal expressions: happiness, sadness, anger, fear, disgust, surprise, and contempt. When someone lies, their face betrays them for a fraction of a second. A flash of contempt before they smile. A flicker of fear before they claim everything's fine. Professional poker players watch for these constantly. That split second of truth is worth millions. Technique number 4 is the pregnant pause. In interrogation rooms worldwide, investigators know silence is more powerful than any question. You ask something, then wait, just wait. Humans are hardwired to find silence uncomfortable. We feel compelled to fill it, and in that discomfort, people blurt out the truth. A detective solved a murder using 8 minutes of silence, asked why did you do it, then said, nothing. The suspect confessed to everything, couldn't bear the silence. You encounter this in job interviews. The interviewer looks at you silently. You keep talking, volunteer unnecessary details, and often reveal something that costs you the job. Now you know how they read you. But reading is only half the game. The next techniques are about control. Technique number 5 is anchoring and framing. The KGB used this in Cold War negotiations, and today it's the foundation of every sales tactic you encounter. The first piece of information someone receives becomes the anchor point for all subsequent judgments. Imagine walking into a luxury watch store. The salesperson shows you a $10,000 watch. You're shocked. Then they show you a $5,000 watch. Suddenly $5,000 seems reasonable. But that first watch was never meant to be sold. It was an anchor making the second watch seem acceptable. Your brain doesn't evaluate prices absolutely. It evaluates them relatively, compared to whatever came first. Intelligence agencies use this constantly. If a KGB officer wanted to recruit an asset for $10,000, they'd start at $50,000 when they compromise down to $10,000. The asset feels like they won, but $10,000 was always the target. Restaurant menus put extremely expensive items at the top. Real estate agents show overpriced houses first. Salary negotiations start with a number that becomes the anchor. The defense is doing your research beforehand and creating your own anchor, based on objective information. Technique number 6 is the foot in the door technique, perfected during the Cold War. If you can get someone to say yes to a small request, they're much more likely to say yes to increasingly larger requests later. The KGB would never immediately ask someone to betray their country. They'd start small. Could you introduce me to someone? Could you confirm public information? The target says yes because it seems trivial. But the yes is the crack in the dam. The psychology is called the consistency principle. Humans need to appear consistent with past behavior. Once we've said yes, we feel pressure to keep saying yes. Free trials exploit this perfectly. The progression, free trial, basic subscription, premium features, annual plan. Each step is a small increment. But look how far you've traveled. They got you to say yes. Now watch what happens next. Technique number 7 is false time pressure, and it's one of the oldest tricks in the manipulation playbook. Intelligence agencies have been using this for decades to force quick decisions from potential assets. The principle is simple but devastatingly effective. Create artificial urgency, and people will make decisions they would never make if they had time to think clearly. Here's how this worked in Cold War espionage. When a CIA officer was trying to recruit a foreign asset, They knew that if the target had too much time to think, they'd probably say no. So the officer would create urgency. I need an answer tonight. This opportunity won't be available tomorrow. The time pressure forced the target to make a snap decision based on emotion rather than careful analysis. When you feel time pressure, your brain shifts into a different mode. The prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for rational decision-making, gets suppressed. Meanwhile, the amygdala, the emotional center dealing with fear and anxiety, becomes hyperactive. You stop thinking logically and start reacting emotionally. This is exactly why every sales page has a countdown timer. Offer expires in 23 hours. Only 3 spots left at this price. Do you know what happens if you wait until tomorrow? The countdown timer has reset. The sale is still happening. The entire scarcity was manufactured to trigger your emotional brain and suppress your rational brain. The best defense against false time pressure is what I call the 24-hour rule. If someone is pressuring you to decide immediately, walk away. Wait 24 hours. If it's a legitimate opportunity, it will still be there tomorrow. Technique number 8 is social proof exploitation, and it's the foundation of influence operations, propaganda campaigns, and every marketing strategy that uses phrases like bestseller, most popular, or join thousands of others. Social proof is the psychological phenomenon where people assume the actions of others reflect correct behavior. If everyone else is doing something, our brains tell us it must be the right thing to do. Intelligence agencies weaponized this understanding decades ago. You don't need to convince everyone individually. You just need to create the appearance that many people already believe it. There's a famous psychological study that demonstrates this perfectly. Researchers showed participants a line on a card and asked which of 3 other lines matched its length. The correct answer was obvious, but actors deliberately chose the wrong answer. And shockingly, about 75% of real participants conformed to the group at least once, giving an answer they could clearly see was wrong. Restaurant menus mark certain items as our most popular dish. Online stores show you best-selling items. Product pages display review counts. Social media platforms are engineered around social proof. Likes, shares, follower counts, trending topics. The appearance of popularity creates actual popularity. The defense against social proof is to recognize it for what it is. Evidence of popularity, not evidence of truth or value. Just because something is popular doesn't make it good. Question the consensus. Ask yourself, am I making this decision based on my own analysis, or am I just following the crowd? These manipulation techniques are everywhere, but they're nothing compared to the next level. The next set goes deeper. They don't just influence what you do. They reconstruct your perception of reality itself. Technique number 9 is something the CIA teaches every undercover officer on their first day. It's called the 90% truth rule, and it's the foundation of every successful cover story. The CIA has a saying, the best cover story is 90% truth. Here's why that's terrifying. Complete lies fail. They require too much cognitive effort to maintain. You have to remember every detail. You have to keep your story consistent. But a story that's 90% true, that's different. When most of your story is genuine, you don't have to remember anything because it actually happened. And the foundation of truth makes the 10% of lies almost impossible to detect. An undercover CIA officer doesn't invent an entirely false identity. Instead, they use their real background as much as possible. Real hometown, real educational history, real work experience. All verifiable. The only lie is who they currently work for and what their real objective is. This technique works because human beings are not lie detectors. We're truth detectors. We look for consistency, for detail, for emotional authenticity. And when we find those things, we conclude the person is being truthful. The 90% truth rule exploits this perfectly. You encounter this constantly. Think about resumes. Most people tell the truth about where they worked when they worked there, what their title was. But they might exaggerate their responsibilities, take credit for team achievements, inflate their role. The resume is 90% truth, and that makes the 10% almost impossible to spot. Dating profiles work the same way. People don't usually lie about age, job, or location, but the photos might be a few years old. The hobbies might be things they did once. Social media is the ultimate platform for this. Everything you see is technically true. Those photos are real. Those experiences happened. But what you're seeing is a carefully curated selection. The 90% that makes them look successful and happy. The 10% you don't see is the failures and struggles. Technique number 10 is the mirroring effect. This is how FBI agents build rapport with criminals. This is how salespeople make you feel like they're your friend. The mirroring effect is the practice of subtly matching another person's body language, speech patterns, energy levels, and communication style. When someone mirrors you, they create an unconscious sense of familiarity and comfort. FBI behavioral analysts are trained extensively in this. When an agent sits down with a suspect, they pay close attention to how the person communicates. Then, gradually, subtly, the agent begins to match those patterns. If the person leans back, the agent leans back. If the person speaks quietly, the agent lowers their volume. The neuroscience behind this is fascinating. When two people interact and their behaviors synchronize, their brain waves actually begin to align. It's called neural synchronization. The person being mirrored doesn't think this person is copying me. They think I really connect with this person. Salespeople are trained in this constantly. When a customer walks into a store, an observant salesperson will notice their energy and match it. High energy customer, the salesperson becomes enthusiastic. Quiet customer, the salesperson becomes calm. The customer feels understood and comfortable. Technique number 11 is information control. In intelligence terminology, this is called compartmentalization. It is the practice of dividing information into isolated compartments so that no single person has access to the complete picture. When you control who knows what, you control the narrative. You control power itself. Think about how managers operate. They work on a need-to-know basis. Employees are given information necessary to do their specific job, but not the broader strategic picture. That information asymmetry creates a power dynamic. The person who has the full picture has power over those who only have fragments. In relationships, information control can be subtle and insidious. Someone gives you partial information, just enough to satisfy your immediate question, but not enough to see the whole truth. You think you understand the situation, but you're actually making decisions based on incomplete information. Here's how to spot information control. Pay attention to half stories. When someone gives you an explanation that feels incomplete, that raises more questions than it answers, that's often strategic. The defense is to recognize that if someone is giving you partial information, there's probably a reason for it. Ask direct questions. Press for details. Seek information from multiple sources. These three techniques don't just manipulate your behavior. They manipulate your perception of reality itself. But everything I've shown you so far, These are interpersonal techniques. The next evolution is even more powerful because it's algorithmic, it's digital, and it operates at massive scale. Technique number 12 is behavioral prediction algorithms. What the NSA developed, Facebook perfected, and it knows you better than you know yourself. This is where spycraft meets the digital age, and the results are absolutely terrifying. Here's what you need to understand. Every click, every like, every second you spend looking at a post, every search query, every video you watch, every product you browse. But don't buy. All of this data is being collected, analyzed, and used to build a psychological profile of you. This isn't conspiracy theory. This is documented business practice. Intelligence agencies pioneer behavioral prediction. They needed to know who might be susceptible to recruitment, who might be planning an attack, who could be turned into an asset. They developed algorithms that could predict human behavior with shocking accuracy, based on patterns of activity. And then the technology went commercial. Social media platforms, online retailers, streaming services, they all use the exact same principles. They're predicting what you'll buy, what you'll click, what you'll watch, who you'll vote for, even what mood you'll be in at specific times of day. The prediction accuracy for major life decisions is now above 95%. Think about that. An algorithm knows what you're going to do before you know what you're going to do. There's a famous example that demonstrates just how powerful this is. Target's prediction algorithm identified that a teenage girl was pregnant before her own father knew. How? By tracking her purchases. Unscented lotion, certain vitamin supplements, suddenly buying larger purses. The algorithm recognized the pattern and started sending her coupons for baby products. Her father complained to the store, furious that they were sending his daughter pregnancy-related ads. 2 weeks later, he called back to apologize. She was pregnant. The algorithm knew before the family did. This is the attention economy. You are not the customer. You are the product. Your attention, your data, your predictable behavior. That's what's being sold to advertisers. And the more accurately they can predict your behavior, the more valuable your data becomes. After watching this video, go check your ad settings on Facebook, on Google, on any platform you use regularly. Look at what they think they know about you. Look at the categories they placed you in. It's unsettling how accurate it is. Technique number 13 is the Zeigarnik effect, and it's why you can't stop scrolling. Why you binge entire seasons in one sitting. Why you check your phone compulsively even when you know there's nothing new. This technique was discovered by a Soviet psychologist. And now it's the foundation of every addictive digital platform you use. The Zeigarnik effect is a psychological phenomenon where incomplete tasks create mental tension. That demands resolution. Your brain literally cannot let go of unfinished business. It keeps pulling your attention back to the incomplete task until it's resolved. This is why cliffhangers are so effective. Your brain needs closure, needs to know what happens next. And that need is almost physically uncomfortable. Netflix understood this perfectly. Autoplay isn't a convenience feature. It's weaponized psychology. The episode ends on a cliffhanger, and before you can even decide whether to keep watching, the next episode has already started. The decision is made for you. Your brain's need for resolution combined with the removal of friction. The next episode is already playing, creates an irresistible compulsion to keep watching. Social media feeds use this constantly. You scroll and scroll, and there's always one more post, one more video, One more piece of content just below. The feed is infinite. There's no natural stopping point, no closure, no resolution. So your brain keeps searching, keeps scrolling, looking for the sense of completion that never comes. Email subject lines exploit this ruthlessly. You have 3 unread messages. Someone mentioned you in a comment. Your package has been delayed. Each one creates an open loop in your mind. An unanswered question. An incomplete task. And your brain will not rest until the loop is closed, until you click and find out what the message says. Breaking free from the Zygarnik effect requires recognizing the completion trap. These platforms are designed to never give you completion, to never give you a natural stopping point. You have to create your own closure. Set time limits. Finish the episode and manually stop. Close the app. The discomfort you feel is the Zygarnik effect working on you, but it fades within minutes if you resist it. Technique number 14 is reciprocity manipulation. This is the gift that demands return, and it's one of the most powerful psychological triggers that exists. Intelligence officers use this constantly to recruit assets, and now every business uses it to manipulate your behavior. The principle is simple. When someone gives you something, even something you didn't ask for, you feel psychologically obligated to give something back. This obligation is deep and automatic. It's embedded in human social behavior because reciprocity is essential for cooperation and survival. But that natural instinct has been turned into a weapon against you. Here's how intelligence officers use this. They do a favor for a potential asset, something small, seemingly innocent. Maybe they help them with a problem, provide useful information, make an introduction. The target feels grateful, feels indebted. And then comes the ask, because you helped me with that, could you help me with this? The target feels obligated to reciprocate. They can't refuse without feeling like they're violating a social contract. That small initial favor created a debt that can be exploited for much larger requests. You see this everywhere in everyday life. Free samples at the grocery store. You didn't ask for the sample, but once you've accepted it, you feel slightly obligated to buy the product. That's reciprocity. Companies send you free gifts, unsolicited bonuses, unexpected upgrades. Why? Because it creates a sense of debt, and that debt translates into loyalty and future purchases. The phrase free trial should be understood as creating reciprocal obligation trial. You're not just testing a product, you're entering into a psychological contract where the company has given you something of value, and now you feel obligated to give something back, usually by becoming a paying customer, even in personal relationships. Reciprocity can be manipulated. Someone does unsolicited favors for you, gives you gifts you didn't ask for, helps you in ways that create emotional debt. Then they leverage the debt to ask for things, to make demands, to control your behavior. You feel like you owe them, even though you never agreed to the transaction. The defense is recognizing that not all gifts are free. Some gifts come with invisible strings attached, and you are under no obligation to reciprocate for something you didn't request and didn't want. A true gift has no expectations. A manipulation tool disguised as a gift comes with unspoken demands. Learn to tell the difference. Technique number 15 is structured curiosity, and I've been using it on you for the last 27 minutes. This is the ultimate manipulation technique because it's invisible while it's happening. You only see it when it's revealed, and that revelation is exactly what makes it so powerful. Structured curiosity is the art of creating questions in someone's mind and deliberately delaying the answers. It's what kept you watching this video. Every time I said, but here is what is really happening, or the next technique is even more powerful, I was opening a loop in your mind. A question that demanded an answer, and your brain will not let you leave until the loop is closed. Think about how this entire video has been structured. I told you at the beginning there were 15 techniques. That's an open loop. You need to get to all 15 to feel complete. I ended each section with a cliffhanger that pointed to the next technique. But that's nothing compared to what's coming next. Another open loop. Your curiosity was structured, manufactured, designed to keep you engaged. This is exactly what spy agencies do in interrogations and recruitment. They don't give you all the information at once. They reveal it strategically, piece by piece, always hinting that there's something more important just ahead. You stay engaged because you need to know what comes next. The dopamine hit you get from each small revelation keeps you hooked, always chasing the next piece of information. Every streaming show uses this, every thriller novel, every sales presentation. Create curiosity, delay resolution, keep the audience engaged, deliver the answer, then immediately create new curiosity. It's a cycle that bypasses rational decision-making and taps directly into your brain's reward system. The fascinating part is that even though I'm revealing this technique to you right now, even though you now see exactly what I did, it still worked. You're still here. You still watch the whole video. Because structured curiosity is so powerful that awareness doesn't fully protect you from it. You knew I was using techniques on you from the very beginning. I told you I was. But you stayed anyway because the curiosity I created was stronger than your awareness of the manipulation. Did you notice what I did throughout this video? The constant forward momentum, the promises of something more interesting ahead. That was all deliberate. That was structured curiosity in action. And now you understand not just how it works, but how it feels to be on the receiving end of it. Now that you know these 15 techniques, here's how to protect yourself. Because knowledge without application is useless. These defenses are simple, but they require conscious effort and practice. First, the 3-second pause before decisions. Whenever someone asks you for something, whenever you feel pressure to decide, pause for 3 full seconds. Take a breath. In that pause, ask yourself, am I being rushed? Is someone creating false urgency? Am I feeling emotional pressure? That 3-second gap is often enough to shift from emotional reaction back to rational thought. Second, question the questioner. When someone asks you something, especially if it feels like casual conversation, ask yourself why they want to know. What will they do with this information? Are they using elicitation? Are they baselining me? Simply being aware that questions have motives makes you much harder to manipulate. Third, notice your emotional state. Manipulation works by triggering emotions that override logic, fear of missing out, desire for social acceptance, need for consistency. When you feel a strong emotion pushing you toward a decision, stop and identify what you're feeling. Name the emotion. That simple act of recognition weakens its power over you. Fourth, check who benefits in any interaction, any offer, any request. Ask who benefits from your compliance. If someone benefits significantly from you saying yes, be skeptical. That doesn't mean every mutually beneficial arrangement is manipulation, but it means you should evaluate it carefully rather than assuming good intentions. Fifth, trust patterns, not moments. One conversation, one interaction, one data point. That's not enough to judge someone's intentions. Look at patterns of behavior over time. Is this person consistently using these techniques? Do they mirror everyone they talk to? Do they always create urgency? Patterns reveal true intentions more accurately than isolated moments. And here's the ultimate defense: awareness itself. Every technique I've shown you today becomes less effective the moment you can recognize it. You can't unsee these patterns now. Tomorrow, you'll spot elicitation in a casual conversation. You'll notice someone mirroring you. You'll see the anchoring in a price negotiation. You'll catch the social proof on a product page. And in that moment of recognition, the technique loses much of its power. These defenses aren't about becoming paranoid or distrusting everyone. They're about being conscious, about making deliberate decisions rather than automatic ones, about protecting your autonomy while still engaging authentically with the world. These spy techniques are everywhere because they work. They work on everyone. They're working on you right now, even as I'm explaining them to you. But here's the difference between now and 30 minutes ago. Now you see them. And once you see them, you can never unsee them. Tomorrow, when you're having a conversation with a coworker, you'll hear elicitation. When someone makes a casual statement designed to get you to volunteer information, you'll recognize it instantly. When a salesperson shows you an expensive option first, you'll see the anchor being set. When you feel rushed to make a decision, you'll identify the false time pressure. When everyone around you seems to believe something, you'll question the social proof. These patterns are now visible to you, and that visibility changes everything. Not because these techniques will stop being used on you. They won't. You'll encounter them dozens of times every single day, for the rest of your life. But now, when they're used on you, you'll have a choice. You can choose to comply or not. You can choose to play along or walk away. You can choose to protect yourself or even use these techniques yourself. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. These techniques are tools. They're not inherently good or evil. They're powerful, and power can be used for any purpose. Intelligence officers use them to protect national security. Manipulators use them to exploit people. Salespeople use them to earn a living. Parents use them to guide children. The techniques themselves are neutral. The ethics depend entirely on the intention behind them and the consent of the person they were used on. So now you face a choice. What will you do with this knowledge? Will you simply defend yourself, recognizing these techniques when others use them and protecting your autonomy? Or will you master these techniques yourself, understanding that with this knowledge comes responsibility for how you use it? That's a choice only you can make. But whatever you decide, you're no longer operating in the dark. You're no longer an unconscious participant in these psychological games. You see the game now. You understand the rules. You recognize the players. Welcome to the game.